Ollanius Pius is essentially a mythological figure of the Imperial Creed, whose tale and identity varies according to the source. Saint Ollanius Pius. Ollanius Pius is a legendary figure, said to be a guardsman who sacrificed his life to save the emperor during the siege of the Imperial Palace. He is considered a saint within the Imperial Guard, and his image is often displayed on regimental banners. The Order of Ollanius Pius is the highest military honor awarded in the Imperial Guard. Ollanius person. History. Ancient history. Ollanius person was born as one of the mysterious perpetuals, and has lived so many lives that he has forgotten his true age. However, he estimates that as of the Horus heresy he was roughly 45,000 years old, give or take, which would place his birth around 15,000 BC in the city of Nineveh. If this is to be believed, it would make him even older than the emperor, who according to older sources was born around 8000 BC. He is said to be the oldest perpetual. In Terra's ancient past, Ollanius acted as the war master of the emperor's armies. During a war in East Phoenicia against a chaos cult said to be the Protocognitae, the emperor and Ollanius's armies besieged a massive tower etched in Enuncia that was being erected. After emerging victorious, Ollanius sought to destroy the tower and all the dark knowledge it contained. However, the emperor refused, instead wishing to preserve the knowledge for use against future threats. Disenchanted with the emperor, Ollanius stabbed him with a dagger before using Enuncia to destroy the tower and escape. Having lived through all of recorded human history, he makes first-hand reference to historical and mythological events such as being one of the Argonauts, participating in the Battle of Austerlitz during the Napoleonic Wars, the Siege of Verdun during the First World War, and the Battle of 73 Easting during the Gulf War, amongst others. Battle of Calth. By the 31st millennium, Ollanius person had become known as Pius or Person because of his devout belief in the Catholic religion and was a civilian farmer of Calth in the Ultramar system. Before this, he had been a private soldier in the Imperial Army who earned the right to retire, being gifted with service shares for a plot of land proportionate to his years served. He decided to cash them in on Calth, taking on 20 hectares. He chose Calth for two main reasons. The first was that if service shares were used to buy land on a world newly opened for colonization, travel fares to that world were paid for. The second was that, out in the farther reaches of the Imperium, under the banner of the new empire being forged by Rupert Guilliman and his Ultramarines, Person felt that it would be easier to practice his faith without incident. Religious faith was widely looked down upon in the Imperium as unscientific nonsense. Person settled down on Calth, living comfortably enough for 18 years. The only indicators of his past as a soldier were the fading tattoo on his arm, the battered Lance rifle mounted on his wall, and the company of an ex-army loader servitor named Graft, that could not be dissuaded from referring to all as Trooper Person. To others, including his neighbors and several employees, he was just Old Pius All. All was present on Calth when the word-bearer's Space Marine Legion attacked the Ultramarines during the Great Betrayal. The initial strikes from impacting orbital debris, once shipyards and vessels of the Ultramarine fleet, reminded him, terrifyingly, of his last campaign in the army, upon the world of Chrysifar. All turned to his faith to help him survive during this time, and was knocked unconscious shortly after uttering a prayer to his god. During this unconscious period, All appeared to dream of being visited by an old friend of his, John Grammaticus. Unwilling to converse with Grammaticus, All attempted to carry on preparing breakfast for his wife. Grammaticus was forced to remind him that his wife died long before he joined the army. Long before the last time he joined the army. All also refused to listen to John's attempts to remind him of their old brotherhood in arms in such conflicts as those that took place at an atoll hive and the Pan-Pacific on Terra, several lifetimes ago. Finally, Grammaticus used All's status as one of the few remaining perpetuals in existence and the onus that came with it to somewhat reluctantly guilt him into paying attention. Grammaticus delivered the news that without their intervention, he was going to lose the war, and that if he lost, the human race would lose. Grammaticus urged his old friend to leave Calth via immaterium sidestep and gain an object for him. When Person asked where he was supposed to go, Grammaticus replied that he would show him. Person then found himself transported from his comfortable dream environment to one of horror, aboard a space vessel at war, but a vessel that was unnatural and disturbing, orbiting a burning Terra. Entering a massive chamber, he encountered a dead angel lying upon the floor, his brutal killer standing nearby. Taken aback by the unholy appearance of the angel's murderer, he raised his Catheric symbol and audibly renounced the evil one that stood before him. The killer took a step towards Ollie, but stopped, his attention caught by something held in Person's hand. At that moment, a golden light coming from behind Ollie flooded the chamber, a light Ollie recognized as one he used to know, but weaker and sullied. Announcing that he had seen enough, he heard Grammatica speak as if bringing him to wakefulness. Waking up in what was left of his lands, Person resolved to escape from the ongoing Battle of Calth, aiding a number of other survivors on the way, many of whom banded together with him and accompanied him off-world. Before leaving, he managed to acquire an Athame ritual blade from a chaos cultist that he believed may be the item he was supposed to fetch, to be used for something utterly important. Person and his survivors, consisting of Graft, Dogent Crank, Bale Rain, Hebit Zibes, and Cat, fled Calth by use of apparent sorceress techniques. He used the Athame to open what appeared to be a form of warp gate and stepped through. Journey to Terra. For the next 6 years, Person and his small band wandered through both space and time using the Athame and a warp-sensitive compass, attempting to reach Terra at the behest of Grammaticus. They were hunted by a variety of foes, the Word-bearers, Alpha Legion, demons, and assassins of the Cabal bent on seeing Horus victorious. On the world of Andrioch they emerged shortly after the end of the revolt of the Iron Men and became stranded for 2 years. There, Person speculated on what to do next, but he was confronted by John Grammaticus, who urged him to go back. However, Person saw through the deception and killed Grammaticus with his Athame, revealing that his friend was a shape-shifting impostor of the Alpha Legion. With few options left, Person led his band through a cosmic void left behind by the Iron Men that he would have preferred to avoid. Later, in a meeting with Erda on Terra, John Grammaticus was shocked to find that Person had not rendezvoused with him as planned. Erda suspected that Person had arrived in the wrong time, perhaps before or after the agreed period. She consulted the stars and her tarot cards to determine that Person had arrived on Terra 2 weeks later than Grammaticus. Terra. After a seeming eternity of travels throughout space and time, Ollanius and his group finally emerged on Terra. However, they found themselves in the Hate Antakya Hive region, now occupied by the Emperor's children and transformed into a horrific dream garden known as Paradise. Within Paradise, desperate civilians seeking escape from the horrors of the Siege of Terra were entrapped within vines and had their dreams harvested by the Emperor's children, who consumed them. Ollie and his group were only saved from Paradise and the Emperor's children by John Grammaticus and Letu. During the struggle to escape Paradise, Bale Rain was slain by Slaneshi demons, and the group was nearly again overcome before being saved by Acti and a space marine identifying himself as Alfarius. Despite the pleas of John, Ollanius agreed to have the duo aid them in their quest. Together, the group acquired an Arvus lighter and flew to the Imperial Palace across Terra's ravaged landscape. However, as they crossed the front line, they were shot down and crashed into the inner palace. Ollie and others were guided by Alfarius into hidden passages with the intent to reach the Sanctum Imperialis. Ollanius Pius. Ollanius Pius was a corporal in the 105th Tercio Upland Grenadiers Imperial Army Regiment during the Battle for Terra. His fate would become heavily tied to the legend of Ollanius Pius. History. He was named after his grandfather, but he disliked his first name so much that he went by Ollie instead. Piers was known to be a boisterous person, who liked to tell stories about himself that were usually lies or extremely exaggerated. He was also secretly a worshipper of the warrior goddess Mithras and believed in the divinity of the emperor. Though due such beliefs being against the imperial truth, he made sure to be careful who he shared this with. As the forces of the traitorous War Master Horus attacked the Imperial Palace, Piers was among the Imperial Army forces sent by convoy to defend the Eternity Wall spaceport. During the journey he struck up a friendship with the historian Harry Haar, who was among the small number of remembrances that Kirill Sinderman had created at the Prime Arch Doran's request. As Harry looked through his data slate, Piers discovered that he had a copy of the Lectitio Divinitatis on it, which led him to speak about his religious beliefs to the historian. As they neared the spaceport, however, they came under attack by Horus's forces and the convoy was destroyed. Piers escaped from the wreckage with Harry and a few other survivors, but they were soon pursued by demon-possessed humans. As the most senior rank amongst the survivors and knowing they could not reach the spaceport in time, Piers prepared the group to defend themselves. When the possessed neared them, they opened fire at Piers' command, but while they were able to kill many of the demons, the possessed soon closed in on the survivors. The demons began killing them and any organized defense broke down, as the survivors fought to defend themselves. Piers heroically defended Harry and managed to single-handedly kill a few of the demons before he ran out of ammo. As they faced their deaths, Piers apologized to Harry, as the demons closed in on them, but it was at that moment their deliverance arrived. The Sisters of Silence Knight Commander Jean Tia Kroll had also been making her way to the spaceport and intervened to save the survivors. Her blank powers caused the demons to retreat, but because of her abilities they made her invisible to most people. While Harry and the other survivors had seen the demons retreated for no reason, Piers could see Kroll and mistakenly believed she was the goddess Mithras, who had heard his prayers. He then prostrated himself before Kroll and thanked her for saving them, though, to the Harry and the others it looked like he was talking to no one but air. Afterwards, Piers and the others reached the spaceport, where he began spreading his exploits to anyone who listed. He was later among the Imperial forces that defended the Paunt Solar Bridge, that connected the spaceport to the Eternity Wall. Harry was beside him, despite Piers' constant attempts to get him to leave, as the front lines were no place for civilians. Harry refused, though, as it was his job to record what happened during Terra's invasion. Soon afterwards, however, the War Master's forces attacked in strength and swept away the defenders. As their comrades fell around them, Piers grabbed Harry and began leading him away to safety, though they both knew he wanted to escape as well. They then came across two soldiers struggling to lift up a banner of the Emperor, after their three comrades who had aided them had been killed. Harry was suddenly struck with a desire to help in any way he could, even if it was insignificant, and rushed to help lift up the banner. Piers quickly joined him and other surviving soldiers saw the banner aloft and rallied to their side as well, as the bridge's defenses fell apart. Soon a large number of soldiers were at their side and they began praying to the Emperor as they held his banner. Just then, however, a World Eater approached them, and fear threatened to overwhelm them as they fired upon the traitor. Their firepower could not stop the Chaos Space Marine, but just before he reached Piers and the others, Knight Commander Jean Tia Kroll intervened once more and killed the World Eater with a single blow. Like before, however, only Piers could see her, and for the others it appeared that the Emperor had answered their prayers and struck down the traitor. As they gave thanks to the Emperor, Kroll got Piers' attention and signaled that they should retreat. He then rallied the others and claimed the Emperor and Mithras had saved them as he led them away further into the spaceport. Afterwards the Imperium's forces began to prepare for the traitor's next attack, after the Paunt Solar Bridge fell to them, and Piers started to repair the damage done to the banner the soldiers had carried. It was at that time, Harry arrived and told Piers he wanted to record the soldier's life as part of the histories he was collecting during the battle. At first Piers refused, but relented as long as Harry used the name Olympos, as he felt it was a more heroic name than Ollanius. Harry refused, but then Piers asked that he at least made his story appear grander than life. Instead of saying he helped carry a banner bearing the image of the Emperor, Harry was encouraged to write that Piers defended the Emperor himself from the War Master Horus during the battle. Harry once more refused, as he felt no one would ever believe it. Later, during the fall of the Eternity Wall spaceport, Piers defended a banner with the image of the Emperor emblazoned on it. He even stood his ground as Angron himself appeared. Piers refused to flee, instead firing his weapon as the Red Angel charged him, shouting, "Throne of Terra," as he was slain. Thank you for listening to this entry from Warhammer 40,000 Lexicanum.